Good evening. Okay, Parshas Tetzaveh. And if we could get a little bit ready for Purim a little bit, it wouldn't hurt us either. Let's start with Parshas Tetzaveh. Okay, I want to put together a few different things about the Big Day Kahuna to give a picture of the Big Day Kahuna, what the big Parshas Tetzaveh is about the Big Day Kahuna, to give a picture of the role of the Big Day Kahuna, and to understand that role, avad everything that we learn in Hilchos Deis v'Chayvus Alavavos, we want that it should give us either a sense of the greatness of what we do, or infuse our practical lives with chizuk. These two things, sometimes people just think the second one. Sometimes people think everything has to be nagea l'maisa. It's not that way. Everything does have to be nagea l'maisa, but there's different ways that it could be nagea l'maisa. It could be nagea l'maisa that now I know I should come on time for davening. It could be nagea l'maisa that now I understand what I'm doing when I daven. Both are nagea. But in any event, we'll start off with the ha'ara that according to Chazal, there's a similar Gemara in Saita, but not exactly the same. But Chazal say that when a Yidden used to go to war, and the Kohen HaMashuach Milchama would say, Miha ish hayore v'racha levav yelech v'yoshev lebeisai, that someone who's afraid should go home and not go to war. And the Gemara tells us, what are they afraid of? That he's misyore me averos shebiyadai, right? That he's afraid of averos. So there's a Chazal. The Gemara says one oifen of this, but Chazal say that the word is, what's the greisa avera that the person did? That he's afraid to go to war because of that avera? It's that he was makdim tefillin shel roish l'tefillin shel yad. That he put the tefillin shel roish on before the tefillin shel yad. And certainly there's a lot to think about there, that's the thing that would send the person home. What is that exactly? But I'm just bringing it up to accentuate the fact that the way we wear our tefillin, basically, you don't wear a tefillin shel roish unless you're wearing a tefillin shel yad. Now, it's not absolute. If a person only owns a tefillin shel roish, they do put on that tefillin shel roish every day, even without a tefillin shel yad. Or if someone has some kind of an injury that makes it impossible to wear a tefillin shel yad, you still wear a tefillin shel roish. But in the tzura of doing the mitzvah, there is no situation that you're wearing your tefillin shel roish and you're not wearing your tefillin shel yad. You put on the yad, then you put on the roish. You take off the roish, then you take off the yad. Whenever you're wearing the roish, you're wearing the yad. And this makes the situation of the Kohanim in the Beis HaMikdash incredibly pelodic. The Gemara in Erchin on Daf Gimel Amud Beis tells us that the Tefillin Shel Yad would have been a chatzitza between the beged of the Kohen and his skin. And there wasn't allowed to be anything, as the Rashi says in the beginning of Parshas Tzav, Shelo Yehei Davar Chaytze, it's between the beged and the basar. And the Gemara in Erchin says that therefore you can't wear Tefillin Shel Yad. Tefillin Shel Roish they were able to wear. Ma nifla hadavar, that this situation of wearing a Tefillin Shel Yad, of wearing a Tefillin Shel Roish without a Tefillin Shel Yad, which is untenable, it's not acceptable to us. Ad kedei kach, you're chayzer me'archei ha'melchama if you put on the Shel Roish before the Shel Yad. The Shel Roish always has to be accompanied with the Shel Yad. And yet, the standard operating procedure, the way it's supposed to be in the Beis HaMikdash, the way it will be, Meheira Yibana Beis HaMikdash, is that Kohanim don't wear Shel Yads when they're doing the Avodah. Shel Roish they wear, Shel Yad they don't wear. It's a Pella. And I want to be able to try to give some sense of what that means, why that's true. It's interesting in Parshas Tzav, in the beginning of Parshas Tzav, it's fascinating in the Seder of the Parshas, Parshas Tetzaveh and Parshas Tzav have parallels, several parallels. But both of them start off discussing Big Day Kahuna, interestingly. So in the beginning of Parshas Tzav, it says, V'lovash ha-kohen midei bad, which is the kohen puts on midei bad, basil, yeah. and the thank you, and and that the kohen puts on his beged of linen. Midai is the word like midah. Rashi says shetehei kemidasai. The bigdei kahuna have to fit. A din d'oraisa that shetehei kemidasai, that it should fit. Now you could say a pashut pshat that the officers of the king should be dressed properly. They should look like officers of the king. You know, there are those that even suggest that that's why a kohen bal mum can't do the avodah. Nothing against balei mum, but they represent the malchus. They have to look shalem as a kavod for the malchus. There are those mepharshim that I think maybe Rav Hirsch says that. So the v'lava shakoyin midai bad is that it has to fit. But certainly, if there's a din d'oraisa shetaheka midasai, there's something deep there that the Torah is telling us about the big day kuna that we want it to fit. Let me explain what's going on here. And to do so, I'm going to use this opportunity to share with you a ha'ara that I had a few years ago that still makes me smile. A very interesting ha'ara. At the beginning of Parshas Truma, we're getting donations for the Mishkan. Who do we get donations from? Me'eis kol ish asher yidvenu liboy, right? From any man whose heart compels him to give. Yidvenu liboy. His heart makes him give. So that's who tikhu es trumasi. That's who you take my trum. Okay? Now, obviously we know the parallel to Parshas Truma is Parshas Vayakel. Right? Parshas Truma was when Moshe Rabbeinu was told the tzivoy of Binyan HaMishkan, and Parshas Vayakel is after the Egel. Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai. He was ready to tell them to build a Mishkan, but they came down and he met an Egel Azav, so he broke the luchos, and then he had some damage control to do. He spent 40 days and 40 nights from Shivasar B'Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Elul, begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be Meichel Klal Yisrael. Finally, on Rosh Chodesh Elul, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said he could come up for the second luchos. There was no time to teach about the Mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Rosh Chodesh Elul and came down, as we know, 40 days later on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day of the Matan Luchos Shniyos. So Parshas Vayakel Moshe gathers the whole Klal Yisrael. So Rashi says, if you look at the beginning of Parshas Vayakel, Rashi says, Machras Yom HaKippurim, some kind of lashon. It was the day after Yom Kippur. It makes sense. He came down on Yud Tishrei, and now it's time to build the Mishkan. Right? That's the famous Gra, right? That's where the Gra comes from. That the reason that we do the Sukkah in the middle of Tishrei is because they got the tzivoy for the Mishkan on Yud Aleph Tishrei, and then Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Daled, they collected supplies, and they started building on Tes Vav. When they started building the Mishkan, that's when they got their tshuva for the Chet HaEgel, and the Ananei HaKavod returned. The Ananei HaKavod returned, they made sukkahs. So that Gra is based on that idea that they were told about the Mishkan on Yud Aleph Tishrei. So the Me'eis Kol Ish Asher Yidvenu Liboy Tikhu Es Trumasi actually happened when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai on Yud Aleph Tishrei, and he shared with them the din of giving money to the Mishkan. Except over there it doesn't say Me'eis Kol Ish Asher Yidvenu Liboy. Over there it says Kol Nediv Leiv, anyone who has a generous heart, Yivieha es Trumas Hashem, should bring it the Trumas Hashem. A little bit of a different lashon. Now this is interesting, like if someone did that in English, we would assume that they're not from this country. Bring it the Trumas Hashem. Pass it the tissue. Right? That's not a way to talk. And the Lashon Kodesh, it's not a way to talk either. Okay? In fact, the Ramban talks about this. The pasuk by Moshe Rabbeinu when when Yocheved saw Moshe in the Ur, this is where the Ramban is, I believe. Yocheved saw Moshe in the Ur, so it says, Vatar ho'isha vateled bein. One second. Here. So the Bas Parai goes down to the Ur, and she shelech her arm, and she brings the basket of Moshe Rabbeinu back to the shore. Vatiftach, and she opens it up. Vatir Ehu, and she sees him, Es Hayelad, the child. It's not Hebrew. She say Vatera Es Hayelad, not she sees him, the child. So the Ramban says sometimes that's how it is in Lashon Kodesh. But there's a medrash there. The medrash is Vatir Ehu, she saw him, is the Shechina, Es Hayelad, with the child, that she saw that the Rebbeinu Shalom was with him. Okay, so you see that when that happens, there's Makom Lidrash. There's something else happening there. So if it says in Parshas Vayakel, Kol Nediv Leiv, anybody with a generous heart, Yivi'eha Eis Trumas Hashem, should bring it, the Trumas Hashem. What's the it and the Trumas Hashem? So it was Oila B'daiti, and since then I've seen it in Mefarshim. That's the heart. You saw that coming, right? Kol Nediv Leiv, anyone with a generous heart, Yivi'eha, should bring his heart, Es Trumas Hashem, together with the Trumas Hashem. In fact, my Rosh Hashiva taught us, B'Shem the Gra, that the Mishkan was called a Kibbutz Levavos Yisrael. It was a place where all the hearts of Yidden were. If you think about it, a place where Yidden give to, that's a place with a gathering of the hearts of Yidden. So Kol Nediv Leiv, you gave your heart, I gave my heart, Eliezer Moshe gives his heart, suddenly you have a pile of hearts. That's what the Mishkan was. Everyone with their heart. Kol Nediv Leiv, anybody with a generous heart, Yivi'eha, will bring it Eis Trumas Hashem, with the Trumas Hashem. However, so I was very happy with this part. Except that it bothered me that it didn't say it in Parshas Truma. Why does it say it in Parshas Vayakel, and it doesn't say it in Parshas Truma? Why does it just in Parshas Vayakel? It just says "May Eis Kol Ish Asher Yidvenu Liboy." How come it doesn't say you have to bring your heart? You ask him to the kasha. I think the pshat is like this. I think the pshat is that Parshas Truma happened before the Chet HaEgel. Before the Chet HaEgel, and this is going to get back. You'll see where I'm going with this. Before the Chet HaEgel, there was fusion between the Guf and the Neshama. Klal Yisrael was at a madrega of Paska Zu Hamasa. They were in a very high madrega. They were in the madrega of Adam Arish and Kaidem Achet. When the Yetzer Hara is not here, so then it's not like when you do this, bring your lave along. No, me and my lave, I am my lave. There's a fusion between the neshama and the guf. If I'm giving tzedakah, I'm giving it with my whole me. Of course I'm doing that. May eis kol ish asher yidvenu libay. Of course that's bringing the heart. The problem is that after Parshas Truma, in Parshas Kisisa, Klal Yisrael worshipped the Egel. When they worshipped the Egel, the Zuhama, the filth of the Yetzer Hara returned. And what does the Yetzer Hara do? The Yetzer Hara drives a wedge between the agenda of our neshama and the agenda of our guf. We become suddenly pulled in different directions. And lav dafka is everything that I'm doing, am I doing with my heart? I could do something and not bring my Yetzer Tov with me. So by Parshas Vayakel, it needs to say, Kol Nediv Leiv, bring the Leiv with you. I have to speak it out. Don't just give because other people are giving. Give with the Leiv. Give with the Neshama and the Guf together. That's my Hatzah. But the Nekuda that's Nageh to us is that that's what Chet does. Chet separates the Guf and the Neshama. And we know that it did that to Adam Harishon. We know that when Adam Harishon did his Chet, before his Chet, Adam Harishon would have lived forever. He was not a Bar Misa. He would have lived forever. Why? How could he live forever? Because what is life? Life is the bond between the Neshama and the Guf. And the bond between the Neshama of the Guf was flawless before the Chet. And a flawless bond doesn't ever separate. Once Adam Rishon did the Chet, the guf, which was like this malbush of the neshama, this enclothing the neshama in a physical guf, suddenly the guf, imagine your clothing, suddenly you want to go someplace, your clothing want to go somewhere else. That's what happened to Adam Arishan. It's a Pella. The neshama is mishtaikik for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the guf is like, not so much. And suddenly Adam Arishan discovered, that's what Ramban says, Adam Arishan discovered within him that his guf was not on the same page. His guf was no longer just a malbush for his neshama. It had a mind of its own. And Adam Arisha needs to repair that chet and repair that damage if he's going to go back to his madrega, if he's going to restore the madrega that Adam Arisha needs to restore. Now, Klal Yisrael, we are the Adam that's going to restore that. We're that Adam. The Gemara in Yevamos, Atem Kriyim Adam. You're called Adam. The Umay Sa'ilam are not called Adam. So what are the Umay Sa'ilam called? What are they called? They're not called Adam. They're not Behema. So what are they called? The answer is that we're the Adam of Adam Kaidem Achet, and Umay Sa'ilam are the Adam of Achar Achet. We're the Adam that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind when he created the world. B'shvil Yisrael Shenikra Reishis. And that means it's our job to heal. Keil na, refa na la. It's our job to heal the wound of the chet, so that the guf and the neshama could once again be fused together, and the guf could do its job to just be a malbush of the neshama. Big Day Kahuna represent a step in that direction of healing the chet. B'chlal, the whole Mishkan is a makom of kapara for the chet of Egel, the Svarim say. And the Kaihanim wearing the special Big Day Kahuna, it's part of the process of giving that restoration to the guf to heal. Where do I see that? Because Adam Arishan was not wearing clothing. Adam Arishan didn't need clothing, because he Be'etzem was wearing clothing. The way I explain this, it sounds bizarre to people. Like Adam Arishan wasn't wearing clothing, now he's wearing clothing. It sounds bizarre. But it's not bizarre at all. Adam was created with clothing, you know that? Yeah, he was created with clothing. Because Adam is a neshama, and the guf was the clothing for that neshama. When the guf and the neshama are one thing, that's clothing. It's just when the guf gets a mind of its own that it's in trouble. What does it say? HaKadosh Baruch Hu dressed Adam after the chet. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Adam begadim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only did Hashem make begadim, what a chesed. This is the Rabbi Sonnenschein brings the Chazal that the Torah is Tchilasa Gemilas Chasadim, the Seifa Gemilas Chasadim, the Tchilasa Gemilas Chasadim is this suit of clothing that Hashem made for Adam and Chava. Hashem made the begadim for Adam and Chava, and not only that, not only did He make the begadim for Adam and Chava, it's unbelievable to say, but it's a pasuk, so I could say it. He dressed them. Vayas Hashem Alekim la'adam u'le'ishtoi kasnois or vayal bishem, and He dressed. You understand what that means? HaKadosh Baruch Hu dressed Adam and Chava. Say the Mefarshim, say the Sfarim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was trying to help them restore, to take those first steps towards restoring the damage that they did. And the way to restore it is to cover that guf that became shameful and yearning for chet. And to give it hope that the kavod that Adam Rishon had in having this malbush to his neshama to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be returned. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu demonstrated that with a malbush. Vayal bishem, the Baal HaTurim says this twice in the Torah, not once. Once when Hashem dressed Adam, and once when Moshe dressed the Kayanim. Because that's what this is. It's the same Vayal Bishem. It's setting us up to return to our Madrega that we're supposed to have, to show us what Tzuras Adam is supposed to be. Not only that, says the Baal HaTurim, I've said this to you, I think maybe even this year, Vayas Hashem Elokim la'Adam u'le'ishtoi kastos or Vayal Bishem. 8 words connected the 8 begadim of the Kayin Gadol. And the Baal HaTurim says it was Big Day Kayin Gadol what Adam Rishon wore. Exactly what that means, I don't know, because it says it was Ar, but in some oifen it was Big Day Kayin Gadol. Because it was the job of the begadim that Hashem gave Adam was, Adam, you are not lost. You are not hopeless. You are not just a Baal Chet. Kam Adam, this is the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I am going to set you on the path towards restoring your Maila. It's going to be a long path. It may take a few thousand years, but you're going to get there. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu dresses Adam. Now, I want to show you how parallel it is. You want to see how parallel it is? It'll be unbelievable. Adam Rishon dressed the Kaihanim. Okay? Moshe Rabbeinu dressed the Kaihanim. Thank you. Right? V'lokachto es habegodim, v'hilbashto es Aaron es hakutaynes es mi'il ha'ephod v'eso ephod, and it says how Moshe should. It doesn't say that he did the Vayal Bishem is later when he did it, but over here it says that Moshe should dress the Kaihanim, and it brings all the begodim of the Kayah. Did Moshe put all the begodim on the Kaihanim? There's a beged missing. Check the psukim, Perek Chav Tes, the beginning of Perek Chav Tes. There's a beged missing. Moshe didn't put the mechnasayim on them. The pants they put on themselves. The Ramban says that the mechnasayim they put on B'tzina, that wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu. They first covered like the tznius, and then Moshe was like the mechnasayim are there to perform like a basic tznius, and the other begadim, the Rosh Yeshiva shall to a lot of other things with this Yesod, that the other begadim, that was the majesty of the Big Day Kahuna, but it starts with, cover yourself. Oh, it's interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu dressed Adam Achad, but he also didn't give them the mechnasayim. Vayisperu alei te'ena, vayasu lahem chagoros. They covered their own erva, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he gave them the Big Day Kahuna. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The Big Day Kahuna was a reenactment of giving begadim to Adam Arishan. The Chet HaEgel was a reenactment of the Chet of Adam Arishan. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the Binyan HaMishkan, he literally reenacted what he did for Adam Arishan. He set Klal Yisrael forward. These are special begadim that represent the kavod of Adam. And I want the guf to be able to be a good malbush to the neshama. So I'm going to give you begadim and I'm going to tell you they have to fit. They have to fit, because the whole point of the begadim is to show that the malbush could fit what's inside of it. That's the point. Pillei Ploim. So Rabbi say, if that's true, getting back to our question. Anybody who says the L'Shem Yuchad by Tefillin, or anybody who learned Hilchas Tefillin knows that the job of the Shal Rosh is that we're Meshabed the Neshama to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Seichel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the job of the Shal Yad is that we're Meshabed the Guf to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to argue that the Big Day Kahuna were a Shal Yad. That when the Kohen was wearing the Big Day Kahuna represented being Meshabed the Guf to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What question did we start with? Hayitachin, that the way to be Mekayim the mitzvah properly is that Kohen wear a Shal Rosh and they don't wear a Shal Yad. I want to tell you that the Kohen do wear a Shal Yad. The whole Big Day Kohen Gadol, the whole Big Day Kahuna is a Shal Yad. The Begadim represent being Ma'ale the Guf to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly. So it's true that if you learn the sugya, you see that they can't wear their shel yad. But it's not because they are deprived the shel yad. It's because that shibud is covered with the Big Day Kahuna. No pun intended. But that shibud is, they're already, the Big Day Kahuna themselves represent that shibud of the guf. So it's not that we're like, oh, I'm sorry, unfortunately you can't have a chatzitza, so you can't wear the shel yad. It's not as necessary by Kaihanim, because the entire malbush of the Kaihanim represents being mishabed the guf to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is what we accomplish when we put on our shel yad. That's what I wanted to suggest. Haman Harasha was after the guf. He recognized that there's a kedusha and a path to aliyah for the guf of the yid. And he wanted lahashmid, laharegu, la'abed. Everyone knows that the Gra says that la'abed means that even the bodies would be destroyed, that they would not be nitin l'kvura. He did not allow, in Haman's Gzeira, there was no kvura. Haman, they're dead. What's the problem? No, I hate their guf. I hate their guf because HaKadosh Baruch Hu put Kedusha in their guf, not just their neshama is Kadosh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them Big Day Kahuna. HaKadosh Baruch Hu believed that the neshama and the guf could fuse together, that they could serve Hashem b'shnei yitzarecha, that the guf could participate in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What did Amalek do? Vayizanev b'cha, we're going to say this week in Parsha Zachar. What did they do? Vayizanev b'cha, says Rashi, that they were chayteich milos v'zarkon klapei maila. Do you know what the bris milah represents? Reb Volba writes somewhere in one of the Svarim, he writes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a bris sometimes, you know? So like for example, he says, he makes the bris of the keshes. There's a rainbow in the sky. There's a bris up there. He says, how incredible is it that we carry on our bodies the bris of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's not there somewhere else, something to look at. It's literally sealed, brischa shechosamta bivsarenu. Haman doesn't like that. Amalek doesn't like it. They try to cut off the milas. It wasn't stam to be gruesome. They had a problem with that imprint of Kedushas Yisrael. In fact, the Sfarim call Amalek the Orla of the Bria. That bad covering that needs to be removed. And Haman wants to destroy our milas, which the Atara is Nisgala, the Malchus is Nisgala, and the Orla is gone. And Amalek doesn't like that. And that's the Lahashmid Laharegu La'abed. And it goes without saying, I don't have to tell you, I'll just finish the sentence for you, but you're all finishing it in your mind. That's why we pay so much attention to our Guf on Purim. That's why it's okay for us to have a day of no das, of Adelo Yoda. Because the idea of Purim is the Kedusha of the Guf of a Yid. Rav Volba writes, if you look in the second Chelik Alei Shor, where he talks about Purim, and there's some good Musar there before Purim, it's Kedai to look. But he talks about Rabbi Yisrael talking about Shikros on Purim as a test for the Guf. Like he would lose his das, and Rabbi Yisrael, don't try this at home, but Rabbi Yisrael would get shikr to the point, the great Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, that he was literally rolling around under the table at his house. And he was a peh, mapik, margolius, a completely davuk in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said, that's my chance to test my guf. I'm going to get rid of my das, let's see what my guf is up to. But the reason we celebrate that way is because that's our answer. Haman, you didn't like our guf? We're going to show you how heilig our guf is. The whole day is about the guf. It's about the celebration of the whole, what the famous lavush about the difference between Chanukah and Purim. The Chanukah is about the neshama, and Purim is about the guf. On Chanukah, people say like Purim is just about the guf. Chanukah is about like every yontif, but we have to appreciate this yontif. We did speak about the das and the seichel hatayra on Chanukah, I believe, over here. But now Purim we have to appreciate the guf. And it's also, if I can say, an opportunity. I'm going to say it like this, okay? It's going to take me an extra minute. I think it's worth it, okay? I was helping a teacher prepare a class this week, and I gave her the idea that she should talk about the difference between fun and joy. Okay? You know the difference between fun and joy? What? Oh, I like that response. So I've done this. I didn't tell the teacher this, but I was once spoke by a girls' high school graduation when my daughter graduated the high school in Passaic, and this was the topic, and it made a big roshim. There's fun and there's joy. Ice skating is fun. Holding your first child is joy. There's fun and there's joy. Okay, but the idea was to try to discover. What's Purim? Is Purim fun or joy? And it's a little bit distressing because it's certainly supposed to be joy. But is it? Or is it fun? So we were talking about that a little bit. Like, what's the mahalach here?
I'm a little bit of both.
Okay, but what's... Which word means fun? Like, what's the plan here? And to say, like, okay, so everyone does it wrong. I'm not makabel that. Gans Klal Yisrael doesn't do it wrong. The pshat is very important. I mean, you're not wrong, but I just want to give a context to it. The pshat is that the silliness of Purim, the shikar of Purim, the costume on Purim, the idea is that there's value to the guf of a yid without his das. You're a Jewish body, I love you. That's it. There's value to the yid. We do not, it's not a Purim thing, maybe for other times. We do not judge the people that are sitting by our Purim table. We don't judge if they're frum or they're fry, or if they're Talmidei Chachamim or they're not. It doesn't matter. Everyone on Purim is a Heilige Yid that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves. Because they're the same bodies that Haman wanted to die on the fields. And if you're a body that Haman wanted to decompose on an open field, you belong by my Purim Suda. And that's the vart, it's that chiba, that love, that cherishing just the fact that I'm a Yid. Just the fact, Vasich bin a Yid, I am a Yid. I'm just joyful that I am a Yid. All the madregas and the knowledge and the Torah and everything, and Mitzvah Hashem is on top of that. But just the raw fact that I was born of a Jewish mother, and I am a Yid, and I carry in me the DNA of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that is enough to make me deserving to sit by the table on Purim. So all the silliness, the pshat is, it all doesn't make a difference. We'll sit, the great Talmidei Chachamim could sit on Purim, sober, and it's a very, very not natural thing. Usually, a lot of people tell me, I have to drink, or else I can't get along with anyone, because everyone's acting meshuggah. But Talmidei Chachamim understand, whether they drink or not themselves, that's their personal cheshbon. But you'll see this, you'll notice this, they're completely comfortable with everyone on Purim, no matter what they're doing. They're hanging from the ceiling, or they're serious, or they're crying, Rebbe, I want to learn. It doesn't matter. Whatever they're doing, it's okay for them. Because that's what Purim is. Someone who's makbid about madregas on Purim missed the entire message of Purim. This is about, you were born from a Jewish mother, and if you weren't, you became a Yid, it's also good. You know, Rabim me amei ha'oretz misyahadim, so we have to accept the Gerim, as I state in the Megillah. You belong by my Purim Suda. And I accept you, and I love you, and this Kedusha pouring out of you. That's the connection. And with Be'ezer Hashem, we should be Zaycha to be able to do the Nizkarim V'nasim. This Shabbos is a Nizkarim, to be able to be Zaycha. The Mais Amalek of Mechiyasei. But when we hear the Kriya of this Shabbos and we hear about destroying Amalek, we have to understand what we're being misnaged to. Amalek was mevaza the kedusha of the guf of a yid. We will never make that mistake. We will cherish every single yid that carries that kedusha saguf. Yashukayach. Sure. Thank you. Let's send it out. Yeah.